Hey, everybody. I am Dr. Mo Anderson. I'm a podcast host, host of Perpetual Motion with Dr. Mo Anderson. That's MOE. I am an author. I have 7 books and several articles, and I've co authored a few anthologies. And I am also a dentist. That's why they call me Dr. Mo. I'm a licensed doctor of dental surgery, a dentist with a sense of humor. Imagine that. Everybody tells me I should have gone into stand up, but I didn't. And I am loving what I do. Author, speaker, podcast host, and now a mentor on wisdom. Wisdom, if you're on another platform or new to this platform, their tagline is conversations that matter. And that's what I like about it. I love me some TikTok, Clubhouse, all of that. But at the end of the day, my mission is to help people review, renew, and renew. And you do that by having conversations that matter. You can go to joinwisdomapp.com and check him out. Dio, the founder, is in UK. She is fire. I've been listening the past week or so, just trying to get a feel for the platform, what people are talking about, what they want to hear. And everything I've seen and heard is exciting. They're providing mentor experts with the necessary tools to take questions from the community and answer them with expertise. It's not just random stuff. I'm about leadership. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a movie buff. That's why today we're talking about real life lessons from Squid Game. Did you see it? Am I the only one who binged on it? Oh my goodness. I hesitated to watch it because it just didn't look interesting. When I saw the initial previews didn't grab me. I watch a lot of foreign films, Korean, BBC, Nollywood, Bollywood, but it just didn't draw me in. And then I heard everybody talking about it. It was in all of my feeds on social media. I was hearing audio media about it. I was like, okay, I'll watch a little bit one day toward the end of the day, right? Netflix Squid Game is addictive. It is addictive like caffeine and tobacco addictive. I was up almost all night watching it. And if you've seen it, I'm anxious to have some guests join and tell me what you thought about it and how it impacted you. But I binged that sucker, and I'm glad they're calling it season 1 because that means there are going to be some more seasons. And if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. You may hear something you didn't want to hear, although I think you would still enjoy it even if you did because it is so well done. And they're not only just a bunch of adults playing. I'm gonna just give you a summary of it. It's some adults who are financially strapped, been there, done that, and so they are offered an opportunity to enter a tournament to win billions of dollars playing childhood games. Right? Sounds uh, hard to believe, but there's a person literally in their face, these weren't emails or texts, giving them this offer. And if you've ever had some really difficult times physically, spiritually, mentally, most of us have, whether we admit it or not, what you have to understand is that people in that condition, people who are stressed, don't think rationally. That's why they do crazy stuff like take up this offer to play childhood games to win billions of dollars. I mean, just the thought of that seems a little bit unreal, too good to be true, right? That might be one of the life lessons, in fact. So I watch it and I'm thinking, you know what? Everything we see, everything we read, things we hear, if you enter it with an open mind and the perspective that everyone has value, everyone deserves respect, everyone deserves to be heard. It doesn't mean you have to agree, but just hear me out. And for me, I want to be on a continuous process of learning and growth, don't you? I mean, what is the point if you never change your mind? You you're like a statue. You're like furniture because change is part of growth. When you know better, you do better. Again, why I love this app. Okay, so let's get into this, and we're going to have some guests join us as we talk about each game. So let's get some people in queue or let me know if you want to join. But I'm going to get started with the first game. The first game was red light, green light. And honestly, I didn't realize this was something outside of the United States Western culture. And I've traveled, I've seen different parts of the world, but I didn't really play any kid games. I was an adult by the time I started traveling. So I could tell you about the bars and the music and the beaches, but I couldn't tell you what kind of kid games they play. And I'm ashamed of that, but I'm still learning. And in this first game, everyone who was invited to this incredible competition, this tournament, to be the last one, to be the winner, to be the top, let's put it that way, to be the top person and win billions of dollars. So the first game, you're thinking, okay, I just have to make it across this field and reach this girl who it's a big doll, a big who's counting off. And I don't know if you play red light, green light, someone says green light and turns their head away from you, and you run as fast as you can and try to get as far as you can before they turn around and say red light. This is how I played it as a kid in Fort Worth, Texas. And so you freeze, and you're laughing and you're giggling and you're trying to beat your friends to whoever is the designated caller, the person who's speaking. So these guys, they're lined up and it's diverse, mostly Korean people, one immigrant, and that's one of the lessons learned. But they are the ones who are strong and fast are just kind of feeling like they can do this thing, right? And that's the way it is in real life. There's so many people who have all the self-confidence in the world, but don't always ask the questions that need to be asked. I don't care how smart you are, how strong you are, how beautiful you are. You need to understand before you embark on an agreement, before you have a contract with another person, there are questions to be asked. And if they won't ask your specific questions, then that's a place to be cautious. That's a yellow light in these proceedings with whoever you're talking to. So the 400 contestants in financial trouble, getting ready to play red light, green light, and this big, I mean, it's not just a doll. This is a big doll. This would be like if I don't even want to say because I'm gonna get in trouble. I don't want to come off as a stereotype, but this doll, let's say this is a fair comparison. This doll who is saying red light, green light, giving them the indication to run or stop, is as tall as a tree. That's a big doll. I mean that's she's really kind of scary just to look at. But she's got these two ponytails going out real wild to the side. And she looks like, if you're familiar with Wendy's, an American fast food chain here, she looks like Wendy, who the restaurant was named after. It was actually the owner's daughter. And I learned this. I'm going to get back to Squid Games. Stay with me, but I like trivia. And I learned that Wendy was his fourth child, his daughter and Dave Thomas, his fourth child. So what's that about? He's got three other kids and he opens a restaurant chain and calls it by the fourth child's name. There's a story there. I'll be doing a future talk on that when you get leftover, skipped, passed by. That there's some things to know about that. Well, some tools I'll offer from my book Success is a Side Effect, where I talk about leadership, relationships, and selective amnesia. So I'm sitting at my desk. Picture this: I'm sitting at my desk working, looking at x-rays, and I see them out of the corner of my eye getting ready to play red light, green light. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm giving this movie 5 more minutes because this just looks stupid. A bunch of grown people playing red light, green light. So she says, green light. She's got her back to them. And they start running. Some are just kind of stunned, like, what's going on? Are you serious? How come we win billions of dollars doing this? And I mean, you just got all types of reaction because it's a new situation. And that's what happens in new situations. Some people kind of hold back, they're real hesitant. Some people are early adopters, they're just jumping into wisdom and doing talks. And some people are just somewhere in between. I'm moving slowly, but I don't want to be the first one because I don't know what's going to happen, right? That's all the people you have at your work, probably in your home. I'm laying back in the cut. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to have to figure it out. I don't want to lead. I don't want to answer any questions. There's somebody that's that middle child type attitude, just kind of getting along with everybody. And then there's I'll do it, impulsive, jumping out there. I'll go. I'm not afraid to mess up. I'll jump out the ceiling. I'll do whatever. So red light, green light. Um, they just go running, trying to cross the line, and then she turns and, hey, Javon, come on, we got a guest in queue. Come on and talk to me about this crazy movie. Have you seen it?
Hey there, Dr. Mel. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you for being my first official guest and my first official talk. I'm excited.
Wow, wow. Yeah, well, I'm glad. I'm glad you're having this talk. It's a good one. Yeah, I seen the series. In fact, I love that you're doing this because I actually love to do this as well. In ministry, I teach spiritual consciousness, and what I love to do is
Wow, awesome.
I like to take TV because I love TV and film, particularly on
Right.
Netflix. And so I like to take TV shows like you're doing now, such as Squid Game or films, and I love to extract life lessons from it, spiritual lessons from it. I love doing that. And so when I saw this topic, I said I had to jump on and contribute because it is deep and it is a good one. Let me tell you what.
It is deep. I've already tried to throw a few little gems out there. And as a pastor, my mother, by the way, my mother is an ordained minister. She has a church in East Texas. And
Okay.
we, uh, and I mad props to you for your service because I know what that life is like. But
Yeah.
we can empower people, educate people, and entertain them in a variety of ways. And there are
Absolutely.
lessons to be learned everywhere, right? So
Absolutely.
we're taking it one game at a time. What's the takeaway from your spiritual perspective? Or I see you have a Juris Doctorate. You can tell us from a legal perspective. Oh no, red light, green light, lessons learned.
Yeah. So, I have to echo what you had started off saying. I caught what you were saying, with regard to how some people are hesitant, whereas some are, more out there. And, for me, looking at it from a spiritual perspective,
Hmm.
again, those of us, and speaking from a Christian faith, those of us that are really confident in who we are in Christ, right? We're going to go. We're going to take the initiative. We're going to run as soon as that light turns green because we
Right?
have no hesitation. We don't have any doubts. We don't have any concerns. We're not worried
Hmm.
because we know that we are already victorious, right? We already know that. So we can liken that mindset, spiritually speaking, to those in the show that took off immediately, right? And
Right.
then of course those who were hesitant, a good number of us at one time or another, we second guess,
Right.
we doubt, we're fearful, and we don't really know how things are going to turn out. So as you said, we want somebody else to kind of go ahead of us to see how it turns out for them before we begin to live. Now, looking at that from a spiritual perspective, the problem with that, besides the obvious problem of being fearful and being hesitant, is that oftentimes we will miss out on what God has for us. We're so busy waiting on the next person to do it that because we lack faith, because we
Right.
lack courage, we'll miss out on an opportunity, right, to get in that position that we need to be in to get to where we need to go. And,
Hmm.
and and we found that with regard to this show, even because those that took initiative and took right on off, after they realized that it wasn't too much of a game when the bullets started flying,
Right.
those people were in a better position to survive because they were that much closer to the finish line, right?
Absolutely. That's good. That's good. And I didn't say that part, but for those who haven't seen it yet, we start out with 400. Now hold that thought, Pastor. We start out with 400 who think they're just playing a game. And we always think we're just playing a game. And we always think we know what the end of it will be. But as Javon was saying, the problem with following somebody else is that's not your journey. That's not your purpose. That's not your gift necessarily. And in
Exactly.
this case, it wasn't their fate because a girl turns around and with her radar digital vision, if you
Right.
have any movement whatsoever, that's what got my attention because I
Yeah.
thought they were just gonna freeze. But then everyone who just moved just a little bit, they started firing on them. I mean, a bullet to the head or one to
Yeah.
the chest.
Yep.
There was no doubt that whoever fell next to you would not be getting up. And then you can't react because if you
Exactly.
react, you'll move and they're gonna shoot you.
Yeah.
So the 400 go in, 200 came out.
Yeah.
I'm passing the mic back.
And going back to the spiritual side of things, what's so interesting about that, once the folks realized that this is not so much of a game, when the bullets started flying,
Right.
almost all of the 200 that died, what did they do? They turned around and ran back toward the door as though they could escape from it, right? And
Yes.
and it makes me think of Lot's wife looking back, trying to
Pillar
turn back.
salt.
You know what I mean? That's right. You're trying
Yeah.
to run back and you can't look back. No, we're out there. God says you're out there. You have to keep going forward. Going back is not an option.
Right.
Going back and you're going to be taken out of the game. And in the case of this first game, they tragically were taken out of the game, quite literally. As you said, with a bullet to the head, a bullet to the chest, they were out of there,
They
right?
were gone. And I always say to my mentees and to the people who I coach, I'm a life coach and a speaker coach. I
Hmm.
always tell them because it's comfortable in the past. It's tempting to go back, even if it's to
Yeah,
something bad. It's the bad I know, but I
yeah.
just say this mantra: my future is not in my past.
That's it. That's it.
Your future is forward. There's a reason you left.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And that makes me even think of the nation of Israel with regard to when they had been brought out of Egypt and when things didn't seem to be going so well in the wilderness. Many of them started saying, you know what? You done brought us out here into this wilderness, Moses, to
Right.
die. We want to go back. We want to go back to bondage. We want to go back. And that obviously wasn't the answer at all. And so when we look at this Squid Game story, and what I also find interesting, besides those that turned around and surely died because of that,
Right.
going back to the distinction between those that move and with confidence in the beginning and those that kind of hesitated, it was interesting because when we are in the fire, as it were, when we are in a period of adversity, as these folks clearly were, once they realized that, okay, there is no going back and this is real, right? That
Right.
was a period of awakening. That was a period of awakening for them, and they had to step up or be kicked out essentially in a very brutal
Right.
way. you know
Right.
and what's really beautiful about it from a spiritual perspective again is that they had to remain steadfast, right? They
Oh,
couldn't
and
move.
steadfast, unmovable. Y'all getting a sermon here on the Friday evening. I didn't know.
I'm telling
I
you.
didn't know.
I'm telling you.
That's
See
why
that?
I love this app.
Yes,
Wisdom.
yes,
Wisdom.
yes, exactly. Same here. I really do. And see, this is why I say I really echo what you say with regard to we can take, we can make learning entertaining. You know what I mean? In my ministry, it's not a traditional ministry. It's not this boring, dead old traditionalist, fundamentalist, type things that many of us
Hmm.
perhaps experienced growing up in the black church as I did. I'm all about, as I said, really helping you to get to that higher level of consciousness. And I realize that I can do that by reaching you in a way that's going to really relate to you. So a lot of people saw this show. A lot of people enjoyed this show. There is so much to be gleaned from it. And, and,
Absolutely.
and one of the things for sure is that when we are in periods of adversity, when the fire is on, we have to stay steadfast. We have to stay steadfast. And more than that, I know my time is running out here. More than that, Doc, is when we begin to do something, we have to follow the rules.
Right.
We have to do what God is telling us to do if we expect to reach the finish line or the promised land, as it were, right?
Right.
And what's interesting through the show is that, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that's essentially what they say in the show as the people realize that, okay, this is serious. They say, listen, if you follow the rules, you're going to be okay. You just have to follow the rules. And, you know,
Absolutely.
I don't like to really refer to them as rules in the context of God, as more as principles. If you follow the principles and the spiritual laws that God brings forth, and that's a whole nother conversation for another day, because I do have a law degree and legal experience, and
Ah,
I do
I
enter,
see.
yeah, I do intersect the law with the word of God as well, from a spiritual perspective. And then when we follow the principles, then we're going to stay safe. Then we can expect to make it across the finish line. And so thank you so much, my dear sister, for allowing me this
That
opportunity to come on and share with you regarding this.
it's been beautiful, Javon. Thank you so much. You made it a lot easier for me to have such an articulate, erudite first guest. I wish you all the best. You guys, please support Javon Harris. Give him a follow. Connect with him on social media. Take care. Thanks, Javon. So, other guests are welcome to join. This is very informal, very off the cuff. There are no right answers, wrong answers. It's just if you watch or binged, as I did, the series. I've been saying movies, but I should say series. Squid Game, the Korean movie that has the whole world talking. It really is an international blockbuster. Then you saw, as I saw, some pretty terrifying ways that they were playing childhood games. And red light, green light was one of them. If you were still moving when it said red light, stop, when the big doll, whatever the thing was, the mechanical doll said that, then you were killed. You were killed. Thank goodness. I mean, corporate America is brutal, but it's not that brutal. But the lessons I got from that, and you guys join me. Hey, you're welcome. Let me know you want to join and tell me what you got from it. But what I got from that first game is, like I said earlier, you need all of the information. Don't just jump in there, whether you're buying a car, buying a house, checking out a spouse. You need to ask some questions. You need to take some time to get the information. And if they won't give it to you, that is a clear signal that this is not the right person, not the right deal for you. And the other thing is that came to me later, there were 400 people out there, and they were thinking they were competing against one another, right? Nobody was discussing strategy. There was no strategy. It was just run as fast as you can within the time limit and then try to be very still with all that adrenaline pumping when she said red light and not be killed and then run again. But it's interesting how you can be surrounded by people. And I've been in private practice, I've owned my own businesses. Now I'm with a corporation, global corporation, I guess we are. And so I've seen every type of business model, even my nonprofit. And it's interesting how you can be in a group going in the same direction, but you find yourself all alone. Nobody's collaborative. They're giving you just enough information to show up and clock in and clock out. You having to Google stuff that ought to be in a standard operating procedure that you ought to be able to get the answer to from calling HR. Have you been there? And it's you don't know what it is. You came in with shade being thrown at you, or something happened. You either made a mistake, or in many cases did something really, really good, and all of a sudden you're friendless. What is that about? That is about them and their uh, self confidence and envy and not being able to understand that there is no table. You don't need a seat at the table because there is no table. Again, a table is steel, and the chairs are limited, and only so many people can be invited. You don't need permission to sit at a table if you're moving forward. There's no sitting, there's no asking for an invitation. You're moving with a group, and you're collaborative and you're communicating. And if you don't have people in your life like that right now, that's the type of people I strongly suggest you start adding to your life as you subtract these toxic people. And don't do like this Wendy's looking lady did. That's not a good way to let your friends go. I'm going to say just be verbal with it. I had a guest in queue who asked to join and then it disappeared. and I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage. I'm doing this from my iPad, and I don't think it quite has all the functionality of an iPhone. But if you want to join, let me know. And I am happy to have somebody help me talk about this very, I won't say it was a fun movie, but it was a very well done movie, in my opinion. Anything that has me still thinking and talking about it weeks after I saw it, heard it, spent time with him or her, that was a good time for me. So the next game is, I don't quite know how to pronounce it, but it's Dalgona. I think it's Dalgona, but it is the game where they had to take these tins that had what looked like a big giant sugar cookie in it. Imagine that, just a really thin sugar cookie, but it's actually Korean candy. And they have to get a shape. They have different shapes, right? Like a star or a round ball. I don't remember all of the shapes, but if you imagine a cookie cutter in the middle of this big giant cookie, and somebody's taking a cookie cutter, but they didn't quite get all the way through, they just made an impression just enough to make an outline. And there's some people like that too that just do not make a good impression. But in this case, it was critical to other people's health that you get the internal shape out of the larger cookie without breaking it. And because they were different shapes, some seem to have an advantage over others because sugar is fragile. A break means death. And if you got a circle, that's going to be a little easier to get out without, because it doesn't have any corners, right? If you got a star, well, I feel for you now. I feel for you. Okay, so I'm gonna keep my day job, but that is a really great song, and I can't remember who it's by. So they're trying to figure out how to do this. Everybody, you just break a little chip of cookie. There are people standing all around you with guns, waiting for you to mess up. You know that feeling too, because virtually there are snipers sometimes in everyone's life who are just waiting for you to mess up. They may be verbal snipers. Hopefully, not physically anyone is attacking you or hurting you, but verbally, that's really the way we're killing each other uh, in 2021. As much as the virus, it's the online bullying, it's the little snide comments, it's the sabotage of your idea behind your back or to that girl or guy that you like. We are verbal bullets. We are taking each other out right and left, and you feel it. Sometimes you feel like there's somebody just standing over your shoulder, waiting to take you out if you make a mistake doing something that's really, really hard. And hey, relationships are tough. So they really can't help each other. This seems to be an individual game. Everybody has their 10, you break it, you buy it. And I mean, literally, you buy the farm, you're up out of here. And what I got out of that one is that you should always be watching the environment around you and learning from the people around you, even if they won't help you, won't mentor you, won't give you all the information that you need. You continue to be open, open ears and open heart, and just watch them. You can learn a lot from watching people, even if they won't teach you. I mean, like, don't be creepy just staring at somebody, but you can pay attention. Don't just have your head buried and not being aware of the conversations and the people and the things going on around you, because what happens in this particular game is, and again, spoiler alert, if you have not seen Squid Game, it's still good, but it's not going to be as good if you hear us today talking about the games there. And they're playing children's games, and this is the second game. So one guy realizes, you know what, if I lick this, it's going to start to melt, if you will, or dissolve, and which happens with sugar, of course, and those thinner areas where the cutout is will become weaker and make it more likely that you're going to break it properly. Now, he started doing this. People are all around him, some of whom he knows at this point, but he doesn't yell out to anybody, hey, try it this way. I found a simpler way. I found a shorter way to do it. And again, you're going to find that when you're working with groups of people, that there are people who figured out a shortcut, an easier way, a more efficient way, and they won't always share it with you. But if you're keeping your eyes open and you're being friends with the people who will be friends with you who are like minded, you will learn some new things and you will see some better ways of doing, some different ways of doing. So he's licking his candy, and other players see him. Unfortunately, quite a few are already boom, gone, and they start licking theirs, and then it spreads, and a lot more live, in, including him, than they would have, because even though they were stressed out and they were anxious, they didn't give up. They didn't give up. They didn't let panic take over, which was sure death. You've got to somehow figure out a way to center yourself and stay focused when you get in these crazy, crazy, stressful situations inside your home or out. You can get angry, you can get upset, you can get afraid, but physically watch your reaction and mentally, despite the emotions, think about, if I do this, then what? I write novels. I dropped a book in October called Never Close Your Heart. And as a novelist, we know from the beginning to the end what we're going to do with the plot before we start. Although it can vary with the dialogue, characters do speak to us in our heads, but the way we move the plot forward is with action. Because if something isn't happening, a lie, a kiss, a plan, or sex, people stop reading the book. And I just had my second bestseller. It was number one on Amazon. So when I say that, I'm saying something I know about, but I can also say it as someone who's been through a lot of life, that it's very important that you take a minute, take a beat, and think, what's next? If I do this, yeah, maybe I'll hurt their feelings for a moment. Uh, maybe that'll give me some temporary satisfaction, but don't lose your job. Don't lose your head. Don't lose your relationship you've been working on for months and years over a momentary bit of satisfaction at the clap back. It's not worth it. Dalgona, sugar, doggone it, dalgona. I don't know what it's gonna, but don't panic. Watch and learn. And guests, please come up and join me. Happy to have other people's opinion. Millions of people all over the world have seen this movie, so I know you've checked it out and probably learned some lessons too. First game was red light, green light. Players thought it was just going to be who had more points at the end, but guess what? No, it's who's alive at the end of this game out of 400 people, and they soon realized that in a very frightening way. So they go from this sugar game, the survivors, and the third game, they team up. The third children's game in the movie, in the series, The Squid Game, they get to be on teams. Finally, we're going to work together, right? Except the other games they didn't know in advance. And so often that happens with us. We don't even know we're in a game until heads start rolling around us. But in this case, they know that they need a team, and they know the game is going to be tug of war. Tug of war. And out comes the isms, the ageism. Nobody wants the older guy on their team. Footnote that's a mistake. Because he had wisdom. And, I know what some of you are thinking. And they didn't want women on their team because they thought the women wouldn't be strong enough. Does this sound familiar? And they didn't want smaller people on their team because they thought they wouldn't have the toughness for tug of war. So they finally, some by default, end up in teams, and it's not bad enough that they are on, I'm going to say like bridges, but with a separation between them that is a fall of several feet. So they're on a platform on one side, one team, the other team is on a platform. They're very up high above the floor below, which is concrete. And when you fall, They won't need any bullets this time. You are not getting up, friend. So, as if that's not bad enough, right? That you're playing tug of war to your death, they then are handcuffed to the rope that they're trying to pull the other team or and avoid being pulled to their death off these platforms. And it is really, really interesting because you just assume there's a team and they were really vicious about it. Very, very all males, very chauvinistic about it, that they didn't need any women. What could women do for them? Uh, they were just certain they were going to win because of their superior physical strength. But we're not in a physical strength game anymore type of environment. There are a few professions left which are slowly being automated where physical strength, but it's mental toughness now. It's strategy, it's being able to make priorities and being able to be efficient with your time and with your energy. Strategy for me, part of it is getting rest, but so that my body can heal, right? But that didn't happen in Squid Game. There was no rest for the weary. They had them in some big giant room, locked up in bunk beds. It was cold, it was hot, it was noisy and scary at night. And the whole thing was just an endless cycle of terror to more or lesser degrees. Kind of like, 2020, 2021, just on and on and on. One thing after the next. You don't know what's coming. They uh, get a chance to chat a little bit before playing this vicious tug of war game. And one side that has an older man, a senior, has some women on the team, just to look at them, you wouldn't think they were the team to beat. They actually discuss how we can go about this task because it didn't make sense visually for them to think they could beat that other team. But there's so many ways that are not seen that we can beat a larger opponent when we think about the mental and spiritual toughness that we have inside of us, right? So they come up with a plan I'd never seen before. You got to watch the movie just to see this first strategy that they come up with, and then they go with the old, tried and true. But the team you didn't expect to win wins because it's a movie, and you were supposed to learn life lessons from it. But the other team, they didn't let them just die right away, y'all. They're kind of hanging there by the rope. And then a guillotine, a big knife of all things, comes out of the ceiling to end their misery. It was one of the most gruesome things I've ever seen. I don't like horror movie. I don't like blood and gore all over the place. Now I'll take a good karate butt kick in, or I like to watch a boxing match, but just bones coming out and brains splattering, and the war movies where they forever get shot in their abdomen is that's just not my thing. But Squid Game, I did not close my eyes, I did not turn away. It was so fascinating. They even managed to make the gruesome parts interesting, and the little guards, I guess that they're going to get into them in another movie. But just think about the people who are paid to torture us, the people who are just like us, and maybe in a different position or a different place, uh, different mindset, that they think it's okay to torture their peers, to torture their family members, to torture the people around them because somebody's paying them to do it or encouraging them or voting for them to do it or however they feel, whatever makes them feel so superior to someone else that your life is virtually worth nothing. Again, that's their problem. But the big thing from that is that we can't doubt ourselves. We can't give up on ourselves because of what other people think or how they're coming at us. Defend yourself by all means. Most definitely. I'm a Texan too. Oh, yeah, I'm going to defend myself. But the first hurdle is assessing the opponent and not coming to the conclusion that someone else is better than me. And that's an easy thing to do. We're almost taught to do it. from early on, people are given so many more medals and so many more accolades for being bigger than stronger. You know, the up until recently, the smart kids, they got a little sheet of paper, a certificate, and that was, you know, that was it. No big meeting in the auditorium, no pep rallies, no cheerleaders for the debate team, none of that, none of that. But you know what they call those folks now? Boss, sir, manager, president. Do you have some time? Because they were mentally strong. Um, and you got to keep your body in shape too, right? Because all of what I'm saying doesn't matter if you don't have a basic degree of health to what's within your control. And I say that absolutely meaning what I'm saying because I am a two-time cancer survivor. I have a rare form of sarcoma. There's not a cure for it, but I take a medication every day to stop tumors from growing. So, yeah, I know what it feels like to be sick and to be sad and to be wondering if you have a future ahead of you. I'm not just throwing stuff out here that I read in some book, but this is real talk from someone who is a survivor in so many ways as a dentist in a male dominated profession. Some of you may be in a situation where there are people who, you know, their family's been doing whatever you do for generations. And all things like that can just make you feel like the underdog. And when I this stuff I'm saying, I'm saying I'm sharing it because I want to empower other people, amplify what you already know about yourself is that you are enough, and yes, you can. And we are going to learn from every opportunity. We won't win every time, absolutely won't. I wish we could, but the purpose each time is growth. What did I learn? What did I learn from that experience? So, what I learned from tug of war was that in the Squid Game, the third game, is that we have to put sexism, ageism, these things that we've been taught environmentally as a society, as cultures around the world, we have to put that aside and start viewing each other as our equals, not with equal ability, but with equal worth, with equal value, because teamwork is going to win. Teamwork is going to win over all those other factors. People working together of the same mind with purpose, going in the same direction, that's going to work every time. That's going to win every time. And that's what we don't see enough of. We don't see it displayed, but I can assure you it's happening because I'm making a point to seek out positive news, good news, inspiring news. That's what I want to do. Thank you to those of you who have joined, who are listening to me talk about Squid Game. If you want to spout off on what you learned, what you saw, what you thought about it, feel free to join. Please follow me. If you haven't, I promised I'll follow you back. And hats off to Dio for founding this platform, and her background, if you don't know it, is as fire. It's just amazing that she's put all this time and effort and I'm sure resources into this platform, and it's given us the opportunity to come together like this and learn from each other. That's what I love about wisdom. I got a podcast and blogs and all of that, but this is really something I know I'm going to enjoy a lot, and I think you will too. So let's tell our friends about it and get more folks on here. And the next game, the fourth game, was marbles. And I'm not going to say too much about the marbles game. They had to pair off, and they thought that the partnerships were going to be so that they could work together to defeat another pair. No, they knew that they were playing a game, and so they felt like, hey, let me team up with somebody who I've come to trust or at least feel good about in the period of time that they were together. And these were all strangers, by the way. The original 400 that were brought together, as far as we could tell, the only thing they had in common was that they were uh, economically in a bad position and they were desperate to get some money. You'd have to be desperate to go off with a stranger like that over millions of dollars, a claim that you haven't seen verified. But I've been desperate. You probably have. Desperate people do desperate things. But so the marble game was heartbreaking. You choose your partner. They told them it's going to be marbles, and they had 20 marbles, I think it was. But the deal was, you each have 10 marbles. You had to play any game you wanted to, marble game, and get your partners, whoever won, play a game where you would win marbles or have to give marbles up. Whoever ended up with the 20 marbles was the winner, and the other person died. The other person was killed. I told y'all there was a spoiler alert, but when I saw it in particular, there was one gentleman who had chosen his wife, which was, I thought, just sweet, cool. He'd been protecting her and working with her through the whole thing. But then the dilemma of, if I beat you, my wife, my partner, you're going to die. Or if I let you win, or if you win, he didn't have to let her win. She could have been good at marbles, then I'm going to die. I mean, what a horrible position to be in. And some more things happen after that with some of the other partners and just being forced into that position. And you find out uh, that your partner is going to die. And they had all picked people they kind of had gotten an affinity to. So, yeah, that one had me crying. I had to stop for a minute. And I don't cry a lot, but I was, I felt really, really bad for them. And I was just thinking again, wow, you think about, we think our backs are against the wall, and they are. They are. We've got financial issues. There's things going on all over the world. We're dealing with this virus. Every time you go out to eat, you're equally thrilled that you can be out as you are a little bit in the back of your mind, hoping that person next to you who just coughed didn't give you the Delta variant or whichever variant we're on. I mean, we're just in a crazy, crazy time right now. And a lot of us are partnered up, and it's kind of tough when your partner starts to feel like your enemy, right? When you're not going in the same direction, or you're going in the same direction, but you're wanting different things at the finish line. And we just have to keep in mind that if you're blessed to have a partner, somebody who loves you, somebody who cares how your day went, or acknowledges your birthday, or just smiles at you for no reason, there is not a lot of that going around. Let me tell you, do not take that for granted. That is valuable. That is valuable, that someone wants to spend time with you, wants to be in your presence, that you're still hanging in there. So you can always get some therapy, but to start over with a whole another person who you know by heart, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. And I'm divorced. I'm again, you won't hear me giving a talk, and I'm not speaking about something I know. I'll just go to somebody else's talk and learn. But if I'm on here, I'm telling you the gospel truth, the whole truth, tried, proven, longitudinal studies. It is what it is. So they've done marbles, and they're down to almost the finale, which is glass stepping stones. And I don't know where they were that everything was built so high up off the ground, but these were some stepping stones on columns across a big, long, deep drop, just like the tug of war game they played, but it was definitely in a different room. And not only did they have to step between from one to one with the space in between, and they were staggered, some of them were glass and could support the weight of an adult, and some were not. So raise your hand if you want to go first. That's what I'm saying. Raise your hand if you want to go first. And they are falling to their death right and left. And then about halfway through the game, you find out that maybe it could have been a little different for them with some cooperation and communication. Gotta be communicating when we're tackling these tough obstacles in life. I do life coaching, transitional coaching, and it's not necessarily long term. Message me if you want to talk. Drop into my DMs on Insta, Dr. Mo A. But a lot of times it's just needing a third party to help you see clearly the situation that you're in and the choices that you have to make. Because again, when we're stressed, anxious, depressed, and tired, y'all, I'm telling you, is almost as bad as drinking and driving. Tired people make some really, really poor decisions. And they are doing the best they can, not realizing until, later when stuff is half done and late, or they've upset folks or just missed the boat. We've got to get our rest. Absolutely. So they're going over those stepping stones. People are falling to their death, and I the only thing I got out of that one was that I wondered if they had to play the game the way that they assumed they did. They were told to get from one side to the other. So basically, they would put somebody out in front and let them kind of try to pick which option. They would have an option that might be tempered glass and an option that was regular glass. And, you just kind of watching, hoping the people in front of you have figured it out. And before you have to step there, but figuring out meant that they stepped on a glass one and fell down. So the science major in me started thinking, and I need to look back, but I don't think they told them, even though they were stepping stones, I don't think they told them that they had to step on them. I wonder if they could have distributed their weight differently, if they talked about it a little bit. And again, there was a time limit, but I wonder if they couldn't have gotten across another way. They didn't have any particular plan, didn't chat about it, just headed out with a lot of fear. And I believe in, for however long you can, having a little bit of communication before you head out anywhere. If it's a short team meeting, family meeting, I'm single. If I talk to myself, just have a plan, have some type of plan. And when you can get multiple minds with the same objective thinking, you're going to come up with much better plans than you do, particularly with a problem by yourself. So, hook up with me, hook up with somebody else. You have questions about business or ideas. You can go in a couple of different directions. You got a question about your practice, your healthcare practice, your legal practice, or whatever. I'm a serial entrepreneur. There's a bunch of business coaches on here. This is what Mentor is going to be great about. You don't have to stay on topic, even if you jump on here with me. You can talk about whatever you want to. I'd like you to say a little bit of something about the Squid Game, but I'm not going to pressure you because at the end of the day, we're just trying to learn. We're just trying to learn from each other. And with that, if they'd had a little conversation, thought about it a little bit, they might have found out something they didn't find out till halfway through the game. But also, when we're looking at obstacles, when we're looking at challenges ahead of us, we don't actually have to always follow the history, follow the footsteps of those who've gone before us, even if they're giants. The greatest innovations that we've seen in the past, you know, half century have been from people who thought a little bit differently, who went in a different direction, who didn't listen to the naysayers telling them, no, you can't, you're not this ethnicity, you're not this gender, you don't have enough money, you didn't go to the right school, you didn't come from the right community. The people who are willing to say, to recognize that's just someone else's opinion, and you're not responsible for someone else's opinion of you. You're responsible for how you feel about yourself, for continuous growth. You're responsible of trying to be the best version of yourself every day. And when you fail, taking that knowledge, taking that wisdom, adding it to the places that are broken, and becoming an even greater person with a greater sense of purpose, and use that passion to get it done. Always thinking about others and working with others. That I don't care where you are, who you are. That's a formula that works. And add a pinch, as my big mama used to say, of humor so that you don't take yourself too seriously. And even though you're Dr. Mo Anderson, you can go on wisdom and talk about the Squid Games and have a good time doing it. I really appreciate you, my fellow wisdomers. Look forward to hearing each of you. Please follow me if you haven't here so we can be connected. And I promise I will follow you back. And good luck. Have a great week.